Welcome to TPM Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. You can also find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Disney's Imagineers use many different effects to bring the theme parks to life, but not all these effects survive. Some of the most impressive moving set pieces and practical effects end up being quietly turned off, removed, or just left abandoned. From shaking bridges and moving balloons to rotating rooms, falling boulders, and even fire. So let's explore some theme park history and count down 7 abandoned and lost effects from the Disney theme parks. Number 7. Kilimanjaro safaris at Animal Kingdom opened with the park in 1998, and it's definitely seen some changes over the years. You might remember that it used to follow a storyline of poachers making their way into the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. During your journey, the warden, Mr. Wilson, would continuously check in over the radio, and once you were closer to the elephant section, you'd hear,
"Keep your eyes open for me. We picked up a baby elephant that was wandering off on its own. We can't find the mother. I'm afraid poachers may be in the reserve."
So to search for the elephants, the safari driver had to drive over an old rickety bridge.
Now, I wish there was an easier way to go to the other side, but this is the only access, and we have to go over this bridge, and it's very old, so just hold tight, okay?
Then riders were in for quite a surprise.
This is not sounding too good either, is it? Uh-oh. But this isn't good either, hang on!
It wasn't a big, thrilling effect, but once you made it to the tilting bridge, the tone shifted. Up until that point, everything about your safari ride felt relatively controlled and safe. The bridge acted as a bit of foreshadowing to show that the second half of your journey might not go as planned. Well, after a high-speed chase, thankfully the ride ended with the poachers getting caught and Little Red was safe and sound. In 2012, Disney removed the entire poaching storyline, but that tilting bridge effect still remained. Instead, the driver now acknowledged the road close sign.
Nobody told me they were closing it!
Which meant taking the detour over the bridge.
Not that I think anything's gonna happen! Oh boy! I promise I'll call my mother, just please!
The effect was fun, but there were many times where it never worked, and it was for a couple different reasons. Sometimes, if the safari was backed up, they'd actually just skip the tilting and rush through that section of the ride. Or if a truck followed too closely to another truck, the spacing wouldn't allow enough time to reset the bridge, but then there were also many times where the effect was just broken. It happened quite a bit since apparently the bridge was quite finicky. According to a former cast member on Reddit, there was a long period of time where the effect broke, and by the time it was fixed, there were so many new safari guides not trained on the bridge that they just kept it off for a while. Eventually, the effect continued intermittently until around late 2018, when reports of it working seemed to completely disappear. I personally love the tilting bridge effect, but I can appreciate how now the ride focuses solely on the animals. They're the true stars of the entire ride, and while we're on the topic of animals, I just want to say a big thank you to Paradise Paws for sponsoring today's video. Paradise Paws is a super fun mobile game where you get to rescue and raise the cutest little animals. I mean, look at them! And the gameplay is very simple, where you work to restore an abandoned animal sanctuary. You'll hatch eggs, feed the babies fruit, and then watch them grow, all while merging items together to help keep your island running. Plus, there's a brand new sanctuary called Glacier Glade that allows you to rescue new animals in this frozen world. There's just something so satisfying about merging the items with all the sound effects, and it'll quickly become your new favorite game. It's definitely been mine, and it's perfect to play while waiting in line at the parks, or even when you're at home just wanting to unwind. Paradise Paws is completely free to download, and you can even play offline, so there's no Wi-Fi needed, and it's ad-free, which is even better. The first 100 people who install the game using my link or QR code will get a free chest filled with animals, coins, and more. So that's pretty cool. Again, a big thank you to Paradise Paws for sponsoring today's video. Number 6. The land at Epcot is a bustling pavilion, but there's a lost effect hanging right over our heads that many people seem to forget about. Yeah, so these giant hot air balloons in the atrium didn't always just hang there as decoration. They actually used to move. Back when Epcot first opened in 1982, the atrium featured these beautiful hot air balloons that gracefully floated in the air. At the time, there were only 3 of them, but look at how detailed they were. Not to mention that gorgeous mural painted on the ceiling. It wasn't until the 1994 overhaul when Disney actually added an additional 2 balloons. In addition to the fountain below, they just added a lot more kinetic energy into the space. The pavilion felt a lot more whimsical, and even though this was a very 90s look, there was a certain level of sophistication. It had a much warmer feeling, but between 2004 to 2005, the entire pavilion was overhauled to welcome Soarin'. The atrium and food court were completely refurbished to what we have today, and the balloons returned with a brand new look. Disney now themed them as the 4 seasons surrounding a central Earth balloon. This tied into Sunshine Seasons down below, which was now organized around the 4 seasons. So why did the balloons return without any movement? Well, before the refurb, it appears the motors were beginning to wear out. Look at their movement here in 1996 compared to 2003. They're moving much slower. I'd go out on a limb and say that instead of installing new motors, Disney just disabled the effect as a cost-cutting measure, which left us with these static balloons. If it really is just a matter of some dead motors, it would be awesome if Disney replaced them, allowing the return of this lost effect. Number 5. As soon as you start your ride on Indiana Jones Adventure at Disneyland, you enter the Chamber of Destiny.
This path leads to timeless youth and
But when the ride first opened in 1995, it looked like the vehicle was being offered 3 different paths when entering the temple and not just being offered the center. There was the Fountain of Eternal Youth, the Chamber of Earthly Riches, or the Observatory of the Future.
You seek the future. I will lift the curtain of time. It is your destiny.
Now, how they achieved this illusion was by rotating the walls and ceiling of the chamber across the real door opening.
So as the cars leave the station, you're getting a choice of whether it's future, riches, or youth.
Pay attention to these 2 monitors in the surveillance footage and you can see exactly how it all moved. There were 5 different doors in total, but only one of them actually opened. Then when the mechanism would reposition itself either to the left, right, or center, only 3 doors were ever visible to riders. This is how they made it look like the Jeep was heading into a different chamber every single time. That's why the Chamber of Destiny was one of the ride's most clever practical effects. The entire sequence became even more impressive once they added the projection mapping to Mara in August of 2013. You could say the effect was a fan favorite, but unfortunately, it didn't last much longer. According to former cast members, the revolving door effect would actually break down quite often. It's rumored that when the company Disney used for the mechanism and parts went out of business, they decided it wasn't worth keeping the effect running. So that's why around late 2013 to early 2014, Disney disabled the revolving Chamber of Destiny doors and it has never operated again. Shortly after, in 2015, projection mapping was then added to the chamber doors to simulate the old randomized path illusion. They look good, but it's just not the same effect. Now, who remembers riding Indiana Jones with these revolving doors? Comment below. Number 4. Although the Great Movie Ride now has a place in the Disney history books, it was a classic attraction that was beloved by many fans. As soon as you passed under that neon marquee, the very first scene you'd see was the Footlight Parade. What a lot of people don't realize, though, is that this scene looked a lot different when it opened in 1989. Originally, it was much more elaborate, with the synchronized swimmers rotating on the tiered cake.
All right, now let's begin with a little music. And here is some of Hollywood's best. The Busby Berkeley Extravaganza, the Footlight Parade.
The figures themselves never moved, but there were real water effects in the scene. The entire musical number from the 1933 film was brought right to life, and pretty accurately too. The kinetics made the scene visually impressive, but shortly after opening, the effect turned out to be much more ambitious than Imagineers thought. Unfortunately, the mechanism of the rotating cake constantly broke down. It wasn't uncommon to see it not moving at all, but those water effects added even more fuel to the fire. Many accounts say there were also issues with leaking water pumps, and there were even times where parts of the ride path flooded. The whole setup was just complicated for the time, and it became very expensive to maintain. So instead, Disney made the decision to scale back some of the effects. May of 1992 seems to be the last time the cake was seen rotating. Then later that year, they installed the scrim in front of the scene. The water effects were also turned off at this time, and the original kinetics of the scene were just replaced with lighting and projections. From that moment forward, the cake never rotated again. The scene stayed like this for 25 years until the ride closed in 2017. It's a real shame that these effects were turned off because the original scene was just so impressive. It was the perfect way to begin the ride, and it was truly a spectacular opening number. Number 3. From start to finish, Rise of the Resistance is an immersive cinematic experience filled with so many impressive effects. One of them just happens to be found in the cannon room. Here, massive laser cannons are supposed to slide back and forth as the ride vehicles weave between them like they're dodging live fire. With the cannon's movements in sync with the battle happening outside, it's all very impressive. It has that wow factor and added a bit more suspense to the scene. Now, as time went on, the effect slowly slipped into what was called A-mode light. This involved only the first cannon firing at the beginning of the sequence. Unfortunately, issues with them kept coming up, and by late 2021 to early 2022, the cannons at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World were completely switched off. This B-mode turned a very kinetic and dynamic scene into something with a lot more static. Now, rumor has it that the cannons were disabled because they were interfering with the ride's timing and safety systems. Because the cannon's position and timing needs to be so precise, the smallest differences in spacing with the ride vehicles would cause the sensors to trip and the ride would shut down.
Please stay seated. Operations will resume shortly.
Oh my God.
This led to frequent extended downtime, so it was just easier to disable the effect so the ride could run more reliably. Another theory that's been mentioned was that there was a mechanical issue with the cannons themselves that caused them to malfunction. Once a cannon stalled and got stuck on the ride path, the trackless vehicles wouldn't be able to move forward and the entire ride would shut down. As the years went on, there were rumblings that Disney was working on a fix for the cannons. Then on January 31st, 2025, it was announced that Disneyland completely restored the effect. What made this timing especially interesting is that just a few months later in May, Disney Plus released an official POV of the attraction. This led many fans to wonder if that helped motivate the fix, especially if it was paid for by Disney Plus. Unlike a lot of abandoned effects that disappear forever, the cannons on Rise of the Resistance prove that there are times when they make a return. They didn't even need to close the ride to implement this change. It was all done overnight on the third shift. But this still only applies to Disneyland. The cannon's movement over at Hollywood Studios has still not returned, and the scene continues to operate in B-mode. Honestly, at this point, I don't think they'll ever get fixed in Florida, but who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us. Number 2. The final lift hill on Big Thunder Mountain has always taken riders through a mine shaft. But originally, it was designed to simulate an earthquake. The track on the lift was banked, which allowed the cars to sway from side to side, but there was also a shaking and falling rock effect to help sell the earthquake. Disneyland and Magic Kingdom were pretty similar setups where different boulders on either side moved. Then the effect was actually plussed at Magic Kingdom by having this boulder do a free fall in addition to all the other moving rocks. Now leave it to Disneyland Paris though to take this entire effect to the next level. Here the boulders actually caved in on each other as the train made its way up the lift hill. It was a really cool effect, but an accident over at Disneyland Paris sealed its fate. In April of 2011, a fiberglass boulder actually fell onto the coaster track. The incoming train hit the fallen rock, crushed it into multiple pieces, then those pieces went flying, injuring 5 guests, including one who was seriously injured. The ride at Disneyland Paris was closed immediately for an investigation, but it was meant to close anyway for a short refurbishment just a week later. This extra time allowed them to repair the fallen section of rockwork and to fully disable the effect. At this point, the shaking rock effect still appeared to be operating at Disneyland in California, but over at Magic Kingdom, it had already been disabled in 2010. There were unconfirmed reports that a piece of one of the moving boulders also broke apart. Many riders reported seeing a black tarp covering one of the rocks for months. By summer of 2011, the effect at all the parks was disabled and the rocks never moved again. Number 1. Cali River Rapids at Animal Kingdom is not a bad ride, but it's always just felt like part of the experience was missing. This is especially true today since there's an entire scene with most of the original effects missing. After you make it up the lift hill, the transition from a lush, peaceful jungle to an entire area decimated by deforestation used to look a little different.
This is not a good thing. This is where loggers have come and are destroying our natural environment. All the logs here are being burned. Is that good? Whoa!
There was real fire, smoke and fog, a layered soundscape of chainsaws and crackling flames, and even the smell of burning wood. All of these elements came together to really demonstrate the horror of logging and deforestation. It was the perfect climax to prepare you for that big drop. I vividly remember riding for the first time, being able to feel the heat from the flames and smell that burning wood. Even the logging truck used to move.
Oh, look at the truck.
Is it real or just robot?
It's a robot truck.
Oh wow, look at this truck.
As impressive as the scene was, unfortunately the original special effect package was heavily toned down, and it started with the fire effect. If you search online, many people point to it being eliminated around 2004 when Disney created a new cast member monitoring post near the drop. It sounds like a logical explanation since the post is right next to one of the fire locations, but I found many examples of real fire still present in the scene through 2010.
Because, I mean, there's actual fire right there.
I'd say that after 2004, the fire effect was toned down, and by around 2011, it appears to have been gone completely. Another reason cited for its removal was that it was a very expensive effect to run, so you gotta love budget cuts. As the years went on, they even turned off the crackling fire and chainsaw sound effects, and the logging truck hasn't moved in years. Today you'll only see these glowing embers just before you plunge down the big drop, but overall, the scene is a shell of its former self and you really notice the difference. So what abandoned or lost effects do you miss from the Disney parks? I'd love to know. Leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video.